Hey everyone, welcome to a special live edition of the Sports in the Mitten podcast powered by Mr. Spots in Ann Arbor. I'm your host, Adam Biggers, Michigan and Michigan State beat writer for FanRag Sports. And last night, I'll take it back to the other day. Tried it out, questions on Twitter. Sometimes I'll get a few. This past time I got a lot. So last night I tried it out again. I got a few. And then with a little encouragement for some of you guys on Twitter, got a lot more. So I want to take the time real quick just to go through the list of everybody. I want to thank Devin Seeley. He's catcher for my summer league team, the Flint Wolves. He just actually had MCL surgery. So Devin, if you're watching, get well soon. We miss you. Looking forward to having you back next summer. And he's a big Michigan fan. He had a pretty good question I'll start off with today. But want to thank Miss Smarty Pants Tabs, Kelly Jean, Matty Minato. We played against him last summer. He was with the Flint Mustangs, who won the Flint CBL. So wish Matt continued success in his baseball career. Wolverine Butter Solus had a question as well. And Brian Young. Brian always has questions. Strong opinions from Brian too. So I like talking with him. And let me see. There's other people that I'm forgetting to mention, I think. So I'm gonna go through this list. Oh, Ganoush 24. He kind of helped start off last night. So I'm gonna go through this list. I'm gonna start with Devin's question. Is it national championship or bust for Michigan? And if Michigan wins it all, how long until Harbaugh heads to the NFL? It's a loaded two-part question. I mean, I think every year when you're a team like Michigan and when you have the expectations that Jim Harbaugh has and the coaching staff, Don Brown, Tim Drevno, all those guys are geared toward a national championship, right? So I can't help but think that every year is national championship or bust, at least, mentality-wise. I mean, you want to go into the season believing that you can win every game, that you're going to win every game, that you're good enough to do so. Realistically, I think Michigan 8 or 9 win team this season. I think last year the schedule was there, the experience was there. We're looking at a team that's missing 19 starters. All those guys that get a point, got a chance for the NFL. I'm not sure about all the undrafted free agents exactly where they are right now. I'll have to update that. But as far as the 11 guys who were drafted, but at the same time, Michigan has recruited pretty well too. So I mean, I don't expect a huge drop off. I do think 8 or 9 wins because of the schedule. I mean, you're starting off at a neutral site against the Florida Gators, and Florida's pretty good. So I think that that's going to be a true test. And then, I mean, just the Big Ten schedule in general. I mean, road game at Wisconsin, road game at Penn State. Penn State's already favored by 2 touchdowns. So I think it would take a lot of luck for them to win 10 games. And then to national championship run this season, I don't see it. But, I mean, I do think that the tools are there. I mean, this is an 8 or 9 win team in my estimation, just because of the losses in the schedule. But it's not like the talent level isn't there. And I know it's a lot of unproven talent, but if you look at the recruiting, I think if you look at the coaching staff, I know a lot of people have their doubts about Wilton Speight, and this will kind of cover some of your guys' other Speight questions. I talked about Wilton the other day too. But, I mean, you have a new passing game coordinator in Pep Hamilton. They have a really good relationship. Pep's referred to Wilton as the face of the program. Wilton's got a great relationship with wide receivers. I talked to Eddie McDoom a couple weekends ago at a youth camp. He said they love him, that they all have great chemistry, that he's a lot of fun to be around. And Jim Harbaugh has just endorsed Wilton Speight beyond belief, right? I mean, Jim Harbaugh doesn't just go out there and throw around compliments. If he says a guy's an ascending player, he's an ascending player. If he says that Wilton Speight has Heisman qualities, he has Heisman qualities. And I had a question, and it is a good question, because I think the Heisman qualities, at least to us, may not be obvious. But if you're Jim Harbaugh and you've been around a lot of quarterbacks, Heisman caliber guys, I mean, all-time great guys. I mean, he coached Andrew Luck, right? And he always talks about Andrew Luck. He always talks about how Andrew was the most complete quarterback that he's ever coached. He's got to see something. And if it's not physically, I mean, he's 6'6" and 223. Wilton's dropped 20 pounds since last year. He's around 240, 243. He's dropped 20 pounds this year. At 6'6", 223, he's mobile. He proved that last year. I think the Penn State game, he really showed off his wheels. He's got a good arm. I know that people are talking about the accuracy and everything, and I want to get to the question of because I want to say your name at least. Who asked me that? This was Sola. Serious question. What Heisman qualities does Speight have? He's a shade above average QB. Last year, that was enough. This year, I don't know. Well, I have to agree with you, or disagree with you. I'm sorry. I don't think that he's a shade above an average QB. I think last year he was a first-year starter. He was not 100% healthy toward the end of the year. You have to take that into account. I mean, he did get some experience, right? And this is what I want to ask Michigan fans. What were you thinking when Wilton Speight threw that game-winning touchdown to J.U. Chestnut at Minnesota and they won 29-26? What were you thinking then? Oh, this kid's a playmaker. This kid is... Okay, last year, the pick six at Ohio State and the fumble on the goal line. He wasn't great during the Orange Bowl either. But it wasn't all on Wilton. I mean, the defense made some mistakes against Ohio State. The defense didn't wake up until the second half of the Orange Bowl. I mean, you can't. I know he's the quarterback, and when you are put in that position where you are high profile, you are considered the face or a face of the program. Those expectations are going to be there. But with Wilton Speight, I really don't see the worry. I don't, and I've said this a million times. I'll say it another time. I think any fan of any college football team would be satisfied to have Wilton Speight as their quarterback. I mean, take a straw poll. And without the overzealous Michigan fan in mind, because right now I feel like a lot of you guys are like, Brandon Peters. No, it's not Brandon. It's Wilton Speight. Brandon will be the guy in 2018. I can't say this enough. I mean, I understand that he excited during the spring game. And yes, he has all the physical tools. And Brian Young mentioned that. I won't disagree with any of that. I've talked to Brandon. He's a smart kid. He's got it. But it's Wilton Speight's offense right now. This has been in motion since last year. And I don't think that Jim Harbaugh would go on record and be so publicly supportive. And I know, and then on the other hand, people say, well, he's saying there's a QB. Of course he's saying there's a QB. There was a QB race last year too, right? It was never John O'Korn. John O'Korn was never, it was Wilton Speight through and through. Wilton hung with Jake Rudock for a little bit in 2015, so don't forget that. So anyway, to answer your question, I'm sorry, I'm going off on a tangent there because I feel like Michigan fans just are not satisfied, and I don't get it. The Heisman qualities that he had, I think he's got the attitude. Definitely has the attitude. It's cocky, confident, but it's not too much. And I think that you want that in a starting quarter. You want a guy who's confident. You don't want ho hum. I don't know if I can do it. You want hell yeah, I can do it. I'm confident in my ability. I'm confident in my teammates. And everything that I've heard, everybody that I've talked to, and I've talked to a lot of people throughout the past 2-3 years, specifically about Wilton, and this is not an accident. Wilton Speight is Michigan's quarterback. So let's close that door. Anyway, let me see that there are some more questions, and some of it Matt Minato kind of chimed in too, because Brian J. Young replied to Devin's question asking or something about the expectations with it being young team, freshmen and sophomores. Okay, well, Clemson was young, Ohio State was young, Alabama. I mean, and Matt kind of alluded to it. This is the landscape of college football. These guys are coming in more prepared, more ready, and I'll use a guy like Cesar Ruiz as an example. Caesar's coming from IMG Academy. I just wrote about this. Not a huge transition for him. He's ready. I mean, the football is a little bit different, and you get used to that, but these kids are coming in mentally prepared, and that is a big advantage. And I've talked to, I haven't talked to the entire Michigan freshman class yet, but I've talked to a good portion of them, and I got to have a couple conversations, specifically with Donovan Peoples-Jones and Tariq Black on National Signing Day. Those guys are ready. So this will cover another question too, impact freshmen, and I get this one all the time. Donovan and Tariq, obviously. Aubrey Solomon, obviously, and those are the three that really kind of come to mind when I think maybe James Hudson too. I mean, James Hudson. I think on defense, especially when you've lost so much on the defensive line, and I mean, I think we know who are going to be the starters: Rashawn, Chase, Mo Hurst, Brian Monet, those guys. But then we have to start looking at the 2D and even 3D, right? Because the past couple of years, you don't have a number one ranked total defense if you don't have a steady defensive line rotation. And Greg Madison, over the years, they've steadily rotated 8-9 guys, and that's been kind of the common theme. I remember talking with Matt Godin just a little bit after he got signed by the Houston Texans, and he was telling me that was just their strength. They were deep, and there was always 8-9 guys right in there, and that's the key to it. So there might be a couple freshmen on the defensive line, but Tariq Donovan and Aubrey Solomon, obviously freshmen on the defensive line. But those are the top three that come to my mind. Let's see another question here. I think I just kind of ran through and lumped in some of them. Oh, as far as Jim Harbaugh leaving, you make a good point. Devin thinks Harbaugh wants to win a Super Bowl. He's a really competitive guy. Of course, he wants to win the biggest prize at the highest level. But I think also that if you consider the emotional attachment, what Michigan means to him, of course, everybody knows about his legacy and Bo Schembechler and everything like that. He's in total control of it. This is his football program. And he's joked about, making it an NFL-like program, and I think that he's doing that. So, is it possible to live out an NFL dream in college? I don't know. And Jim Harbaugh could be the only one to definitively say if, yes, winning a Super Bowl is on his bucket list, or at least having the opportunity to compete for one, he has to do it. But, part of me believes, too, he's at Michigan. And he has that is his program, and I don't want to directly compare, and I know it might upset some people, but I use Tom Izzo as an example. Tom Izzo, he's had his chances at the NBA, and maybe one day, but Tom Izzo has total control over Michigan State basketball. He is a god in East Lansing, and you don't always get that type of that control. You don't always get that type of admiration if you're an NBA coach or an NFL coach. So I think take into account I think Jim Harbaugh loves the fact that Michigan fans love him. It's a really deep connection, and it's of course it formed for a lot of fans. When they were younger and watching, and if you have families that were big Michigan fans, and you talk about the great players, and Jim Harbaugh is one of those guys. But I just have to believe that you have to put yourself in that position, I guess. And you are in total control. You are the man. So to answer that question, it would be really tough. Part of me thinks maybe he does, but at the same time, if you just consider everything I just said, you have the keys to the kingdom. You are the guy in the NFL. You're out the door. If they think something's look what happened in San Francisco. I don't see Jim Harbaugh, if he ever left Michigan, it would be on his own terms. Period. No ifs, ands, or buts. No static surrounding it. No drama like in San Francisco. He would leave on his own terms. But with that being said, I don't see him leaving anytime soon. Okay, let me get back to some of these other questions here. Oh, this is a reply. Harbaugh said the same thing last year. In reply to Harbaugh, I tweeted, Harbaugh is more than confident in Speight. Pep Hamilton, the passing game coordinator, called Speight the face of the program. Harbaugh mentioned Heisman qualities. I'm sold. And Harbaugh said the same thing last year, and that's what I'm talking about. Is what he said last year. So I believe that's all of your questions. I appreciate everything. Here's a reply from Duval. Yeah, he did, and then he got hurt. When Harbaugh said that, he was lighting it up, and no one was complaining. Exactly. Duval, Ohio Jaguar. He's a longtime follower. Exactly. I couldn't have said it any better. Lauren Graham, no, you're not too late, Lauren. And how's that rotator cuff, man? I heard. Well, you didn't have any problem the other night with that throw, but that's why everybody's like, why didn't you send Ross to third? I'm like, I didn't want to test your arm, even though I knew it was hurt. Anyway, probably too late. But with Michigan losing a bunch of seniors, are there any positions where depth could be a concern? That's a good question. Depth as a concern, let's weigh the level of concern. Major concern, or is it just a concern out of interest to see who's going to fill those slots? I think it's a concern out of interest. As far as major concern talent-wise, I don't think there's any reason question. A lot of people were talking about the linebackers, and even myself. I mean, I thought the linebacker group might be a little bit thin after last year. I mean, I thought it was a little bit thin last year. But then, I mean, you have Mike McCray returning, Devin Bush, Josh Uche, Josh Metellus switching there. He'll a Viper. I can't. He'll play linebacker, safety, Viper, kind of. He described it to me, just like a roving safety, just a really athletic linebacker could do a lot of stuff. I don't have any concerns as far as if I think that Michigan is going to lack in any certain area. I mean, the secondary. I mean, you're losing Jordan Lewis, you're losing Channing Stribling, you're losing Jeremy Clark. Who else am I missing? DeMonte Thomas. I mean, is there concern there? Well, at the same time, last year in fall, we were talking about, and the coaching staffs were talking. The coaching staff was talking about. Jim Harbaugh was talking about David Long and Lavert Hill, and those guys that sound like they're getting their chance. So I mean, Tyree Cannell probably as a safety too. I mean. Ben St. Juste, a lot of these guys are getting, if not mentioned, I mean, they either look good in the spring game or, somebody's talking about them in some capacity. I don't think that there's reason to be concerned of, is there going to be a drop-off of talent? I just think it's more, like I said, more of a concern of interest. Like, how are these guys going to fit? How long is it going to take for it to fit? I think that's probably more of the concern. Hopefully I answered that question for you, Lauren. I believe that's it, guys. I wanna say thanks, Devin, watching live. I appreciate it, Devin. You're probably lounging right now. I've seen the pictures of that brace, man. It doesn't look comfortable, but at least everybody's taking care of you. That's good. I'm gonna scroll through my mentions one last time. I think I want to get your question, Kelly, if you're watching, because I know that you asked one last night, and I want to get to it. And like I said, I think I lumped in some of these questions too, because a lot of them were similar, or it was easy for me to go to one and I could kind of transition. They paralleled each other a little bit. Kelly, where are the biggest question marks? What positions had the biggest voids to fill with the departure since last season? Lawrence was kind of a similar question. And I'll say this too. Don't underestimate the importance of a kicker. Kenny Allen. That's where. I mean, if you saw Quinn in the spring game, Quinn's got a leg. I don't think, but the accuracy and what I liked about Kenny is calm under pressure and finish the season. I mean, we all know about the 3 missed field goals, or was it 2 or 3? I'm forgetting now. I wrote about it enough. The missed field goals against Wisconsin, I believe it was 2 of them, and then he finished the entire year without missing one. I mean, that incredible mental resolve, incredible way to bounce back performance-wise too. And now he's with the Baltimore Ravens. So good luck to Kenny. But yeah, to answer your question, Kelly, I mean, I think I covered it a little bit with Lauren. The biggest question mark, I mean, kicker is at least consistency. That's a big value, I think. Another area would be, I mean, the offensive line. I think that's an easy one to pick. And the offensive, it seemed like we saw the offensive line struggle. It started to get itself together a little bit, and I think the run game's coming along. And I wrote an article about the coaching changes. That'll be on FanRag Sports, at FanRag Sports on Twitter, at FanRag_U. I'll tweet it from my account, at AdamBiggers81. But I look at the impact of the coaching changes, a little bit of swaps going on. Jay Harbaugh now coaching the running backs. Greg Fry coming in, run game coordinator. He'll also O-line and work, specifically with tackles. And then so I'm going to sneeze, so excuse me, I think. Maybe not. Maybe. Anyway, I think the offensive line, it's fair. Just joined with Perry possibly out. Who do you like in the slot? I like Martin. That is from Scott Lerman. Scott, I appreciate the question. I mean, Eddie McDoom, I think, is a pretty good option. I think I don't know if they would consider Donovan Peoples-Jones. I mean, he's an outside guy. He's got a little bit of height. I think there's a lot of options. Truth be told, it's not that I'm not sold on Oliver Martin. I just think that there's a few guys that are a little bit more qualified and ahead of him. But I think Oliver's talented. But yeah, I definitely appreciate the question, Scott. Again, I want to thank everybody. Matt, Devin, Kelly, Tabs, Brian, Duval, of course. I feel like I don't even have to mention him anymore. Ohio Jaguar, he knows. And Scott, I really want to see McDoom get more catches. I do too. Eddie does too. I'll end this real quick. I had a conversation with Eddie, and you can actually, the video, if you're watching this live, it's on this channel, so just scroll down. It's a couple videos down. We talked, Angelique and I actually caught up with Eddie at a Michigan youth camp, and Eddie was telling me about just, he's getting stronger, he's fast, that stuff, and it's standard, right? I mean, every year you want to improve, so, but he was really excited about Pep Hamilton and said that the offense could blow up the scoreboard. He said it's faster. He said he feels like it's going to be guys put in more, better position to make big plays. So I expect a lot, just in general, out of the receivers, kind of going off there. So anyway, yeah, I think we'll see an increase with Eddie McDoom. Let me answer that. I'll take a look at that vid. Thanks. I appreciate it, Scott. Yep, it's right. It's right. Just a couple videos down. Take a look, comment, like it, share it, whatever you feel inclined to do. So. All right, guys, I think that's it. We're going on about 20 minutes here. I hope I answered everybody's question. With Harbaugh, Devin, with Harbaugh being a godsend, does he take any heat if the season blows up? 2 to 3 wins per se. Well, I mean, I don't think they're going to win 2 or 3 games, but I mean, he would take some heat if they underachieve this year, and I think Harbaugh would probably be the hardest on himself. But when I say 8 or 9 wins, I feel like that's a good baseline, and of course, it's early in the season. We don't know what's going to happen down the road. A key team could, have a key injury. Penn State or Ohio State could implode and open up the door. I mean, Michigan could have injuries. I mean, college football is really hard to predict, right? Especially this far out of the season. But I think 8 or 9 wins are more than fair. I think it's a 10-win team if there's some luck. And then, I mean, who else? I mean, there's luck and then there's magic. So I mean, if they can find some magic, then maybe. But I think 8 or 9 wins is a reasonable baseline for Michigan right now. Anything less, I think that Harbaugh would probably be critical. I think fans would be pretty critical as well. And I'm sorry, I did not see your name. Something about Nico Collins. Where do I see Nico? I see Nico right there too. I mean, you have to consider. I think Maurice Ways. Not enough people are talking about Maurice Ways. He's pretty valuable in blocking. He's a good catcher. Big body guys like 6'4", 6'5". Don't forget about Kakoa Crawford either. I mean, there are guys ahead of these freshmen, so it's not like we're going to see just all freshman receivers. But I think we'll see Nico play. We'll see Donovan and Tariq. And if you guys read my stuff or if you're tuning in late, earlier I said I really like Donovan and Tariq. I remember talking with Will Speight. He was telling me about how they're just the way that they catch the ball. I mentioned this in the past podcast, so I'm not trying to run through it, but don't want to rehash it. So yeah, I like those guys. Anyway, again, I want to thank everybody for watching. Subscribe to my channel. We'll do these all the time. If you ever have a question about Michigan football, basketball, I also cover Michigan State basketball. Not a whole lot of Michigan State football, but Michigan State basketball, Michigan basketball. Michigan football, which is my primary. So if you have a question, don't be shy. At Adam Biggers 81, follow me. Whatever you want to do, reply to my tweets. Tell me you agree or disagree. I'm trying to think what else. Follow FanRag Sports at FanRag Sports. Follow FanRag U at FanRag_U, and again, that's FanRagSports.com. I want to thank Tim and Keith at Mr. Spots in Ann Arbor. I am counting down the days until Monday press conferences because they give us steak, sandwiches, waffle fries, chicken wings. Excellent stuff. If you're in Ann Arbor or if you're not and you're hungry, go drive there. It's worth the drive. 808 State Street in Ann Arbor, MrSpotsAnnArbor.com. Tell Tim and Keith and the crew that I sent you. They'll take excellent care of you. And we'll have some food giveaways during the football season too. That's always pretty fun. So giving away like 6-inch steak sandwiches on game days and things like that. We'll probably do wing giveaways. We'll do some stuff in the fall. So definitely appreciate their support. I'm Adam Biggers, Michigan and Michigan State beat writer for FanRag Sports. I want to thank everybody for watching. Oh, and hold on, Andrew Pierce. I see Nico and Laquan. That is a big comparison. I really like Laquan Treadwell. I thought I thought Laquan would have been a great fit at Michigan. So, sorry, that was the last question, but yeah, I agree. I can see that. I feel like that might be a little bit of there's some validity to that comparison. So again, I'm Adam, Michigan State beat writer for FanRag Sports. Thanks everybody for watching, and we'll do this again soon. Bye.